I've always thought of myself as being pretty intuitive, but the other day something happened that just really made me question, how much we're actually picking up from other people around us.
Oh, yeah.
So I was at this coffee shop, just totally spaced out, and then all of a sudden this like wave of sadness just kind of washed over me.
Mhm.
And I looked up and there's this woman ahead of me just practically radiating sorrow.
Wow.
And it was so strong. And the thing is, I didn't even know her.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what we're diving into today, this idea of the collective field, this concept that we're all kind of swimming in this ocean of shared energy,
Yeah.
and we're constantly influencing and being influenced by each other on a level that we might not even realize.
So you're saying it's more than just empathy or just picking up on someone's body language, that
Yeah.
there's like an actual energetic connection happening.
Exactly. It's not some mystical woo-woo stuff either. There's actual science to back this up.
Yeah.
So our brains and our hearts, they generate electrical impulses, right? And those impulses create electromagnetic fields that extend beyond our bodies.
Okay, so stay with me here. Like invisible force fields around each of us.
You got it. And the research from the HeartMath Institute suggests that the heart's electromagnetic field is way stronger than the brain's. We're talking like 60 times stronger.
Hold on. My heart has more energetic power than my brain.
Yeah,
That changes things.
it's pretty wild, right? But it makes sense if you think about it. Our emotions are often felt most strongly in our hearts, not our heads. And the HeartMath Institute has found that this heart field actually carries emotional information.
So you're telling me that my feelings are literally radiating outwards and influencing the energy around me?
It's not just you. We're all doing it all the time. Think about how you instantly feel the vibe when you walk into a room,
Yeah.
or how easily you get swept up in a crowd's excitement at a concert.
Okay, I can see how that fits. It's not just the noise and the lights. It's like you're tapping into something bigger, a collective feeling.
Exactly. That's what we call emotional contagion. And the research suggests there might be an actual electromagnetic component to it. This means that those seemingly random moments of connection you described at the coffee shop could be a glimpse into this field in action.
So maybe my coffee shop moment wasn't just me being overly sensitive, but actually tuning into this woman's heart field?
It's definitely possible. And this idea of interconnected energy fields goes beyond just person-to-person interactions. It extends to our planet as well.
You're going to tell me about the Earth's energy field now, right?
Uh-huh.
I've heard about this, but I've never really understood it.
Think of it like this. The Earth has its own heartbeat. It's called the Schumann resonance. It's this electromagnetic frequency that resonates at about 7.83 hertz, which happens to be very close to the frequency of human brain waves, especially in relaxed states.
Wait, so we're synced up to the planet's rhythm? That's kind of amazing.
It is, and studies have shown that disruptions in the Schumann resonance, like during solar storms,
Yeah.
can mess with our sleep, our mood, and even our cognitive functions. So, yeah, we're deeply connected to Earth's energy in ways we're only beginning to understand.
So that feeling of being grounded and recharged when you're in nature, maybe it's not just about being in a pretty place, but actually syncing up with the Earth's frequency.
That's a great way to put it. So we have our individual fields, this planetary field, and then there's this idea of a collective human consciousness.
Right.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
Do we have any evidence that this collective aspect is real beyond just feeling it?
That's what I'm wondering. Is there any scientific proof that we're all energetically linked on that global level?
Well, there's a group called the Global Consciousness Project that's been running some fascinating experiments trying to measure this very thing.
Okay, now this I've got to hear about.
They've set up random number generators all over the world.
Okay.
These are basically computers spitting out random sequences of ones and zeros. And their idea is that during major global events where millions of people are experiencing similar emotions, there might be a measurable change in this randomness.
So they're looking for patterns in the random numbers that correlate with moments of collective emotion?
Exactly. And they've actually found some pretty mind-blowing results. They saw statistically significant shifts in the data during events like 9/11, the death of Princess Diana, even global celebrations like the Olympics or New Year's Eve.
That's pretty compelling. But even with this evidence, I have to ask, does this definitively prove we have some sort of hive mind, a single collective consciousness?
That's the big question, isn't it? The data suggests something remarkable is happening, but it doesn't quite give us all the answers.
So we're not all just puppets controlled by a single global mind, but rather individual nodes in this vast energetic network influencing and being influenced by each other.
Right.
It's like an energetic internet.
A very apt analogy, and the implications are truly profound if our thoughts and emotions are constantly contributing to this collective field. How does that affect our individual and collective experience?
That's what I'm dying to know more about. What does this mean for how we navigate the world, how we interact with each other, and how we can potentially use this knowledge to create positive change?
Those are exactly the questions we'll explore as we dive deeper into the science and practical applications of the collective field.
This is already so much to think about. I have a feeling this conversation is just getting started.
Me too.
I'm still processing this whole idea that we're all energetically connected like nodes in a giant network. It's amazing, but also a little daunting, if I'm being honest. Like, if my energy is constantly influencing others, what does that mean for how I handle, say, a bad day? Am I just radiating negativity out to everyone around me?
That's a really common concern, and it brings us to this concept of coherence. It's not really about labeling emotions as good or bad, but more about understanding the quality of the energy they create. Remember how we were talking about the heart having the strongest electromagnetic field?
Yeah, 60 times stronger than the brain.
Hmm.
It's hard to forget that little nugget.
Right. Well, when you're feeling stressed or anxious, your heart rhythm tends to be more erratic. It's kind of like sending out this jumbled signal, and that can definitely impact the field around you.
So it's less about never feeling stressed and more about recognizing how those feelings are actually affecting my energetic output.
Yeah.
But how do we actually shift, from sending out those jumble signals to something more harmonious?
Well, there are many ways to cultivate coherence, but one of the simplest and most effective is heart-focused breathing.
I'm all about simple and effective. Tell me more.
It's basically a technique where you focus on your breath, slowing it down and bringing your attention to your heart area. And as you breathe, you can even imagine breathing in feelings of peace, gratitude, or compassion.
That sounds incredibly relaxing. I can see how that would calm down a racing mind and a stressed out heart.
It does, and with practice, heart-focused breathing can actually train your heart rhythm to become more coherent. And that coherent energy then radiates outwards, influencing those around you.
So it's like a ripple effect spreading calm instead of chaos. I like it, but this all sounds very individual. Didn't that Global Consciousness project you mentioned look at collective energy?
They did, and it's fascinating to think about how these individual practices might contribute to shifts in the collective field. In fact, there's a study from the 90s that speaks to this very idea. Researchers wanted to test whether group meditation could actually reduce crime rates.
Wait, they tried to fight crime with meditation? That's a bold experiment. Where did this even take place?
In Washington, D.C., which at the time had one of the highest crime rates in the country, they brought together a group of 4,000 trained meditators and had them meditate twice a day for several weeks.
4,000 meditators. That's a serious commitment. What did they find? Did they manage to zen the city into peace?
Well, the results were pretty remarkable. During the meditation periods, violent crime in D.C. decreased by an average of 23%.
That's a huge drop. Are you saying that group meditation literally caused crime to go down?
Well, they controlled for all sorts of other factors like weather holidays, even police activity, and the correlation held strong. Now, it doesn't definitively prove causation, but it's definitely compelling evidence for the power of collective coherence.
Okay, I'm going to need to sit with that for a minute. 4,000 people meditating, and suddenly the city is more peaceful. That's just, wow. But let's be real. Not everyone's going to drop everything and join a meditation mega group. What about those of us who just want to cultivate a little more peace in our own lives and maybe ripple that out to the people we interact with daily?
It all starts with individual practice. And thankfully, there are many small but mighty things you can do. One of the simplest and most effective is gratitude.
I'm hearing a lot about the power of gratitude lately. What makes it so special?
Well, when you focus on gratitude, it's not just about feeling good. It actually shifts your physiology. Your heart rate variability increases, which is a key indicator of coherence.
So gratitude is like a shortcut to creating that calm, ordered energy we've been talking about. It's like a heart hack.
I love it at a heart hack. And the best part is it's available to everyone. You don't need any special training or equipment, just a willingness to shift your attention to the good in your life.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about those of us who are prone to, let's say, a more pessimistic outlook? Are we doomed to radiate negativity forever?
Not at all. It's true. Our brains are wired with a negativity bias. It's kind of an evolutionary leftover to keep us alert to threats, but we can retrain our brains to be more balanced.
Okay, now I'm really interested. How do we rewire for more positivity?
Well, one technique is called positive noticing. It's about consciously looking for the good, even in the smallest things. A beautiful sunset, a stranger's smile, a delicious cup of coffee.
I can see how that would train your brain to focus on the brighter side of life. But speaking of things that can affect our energy, we were talking about social media earlier. How do we manage this constant influx of information and often negativity we face online?
That's a huge challenge in today's world. It's like we're swimming in this sea of information, and a lot of it is designed to trigger our stress response.
Tell me about it. Some days it feels like scrolling through a never-ending feed of outrage and bad news. It's exhausting.
It is, and it's so important to be mindful of the energy we're absorbing online. Setting boundaries is crucial.
So practical tips. What can we actually do to manage our digital energy?
Think of it like creating a healthy diet for your mind. Start by unfollowing accounts that consistently trigger negative emotions. Fill your feed with things that inspire you, make you laugh, or teach you something new.
It's like curating a more positive and uplifting online experience and maybe taking breaks altogether. Remember what life was like before we were constantly scrolling.
Exactly. Go for a walk, read a book, have a face-to-face conversation. Disconnecting from the digital world and reconnecting with yourself and the physical world is essential for energetic balance.
It's like hitting the reset button on our energy. I know I certainly feel more grounded and energized after a good tech break.
We all do. But it's not just about limiting the negative, it's also about choosing to amplify the positive.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when you see something uplifting or inspiring online, share it like it, comment on it, tell a friend. Those seemingly small actions can actually contribute to shifting the overall tone of online spaces.
So we have a responsibility to be mindful not only of what we consume online, but also what we contribute. It's about making conscious choices about the energy we're putting out into the digital world.
Exactly. And remember, the effects of this extend beyond the screen. Our online interactions can influence our offline energy and vice versa.
This is all starting to paint a really clear picture for me. We have these individual practices, but ultimately it's all about how our individual energy contributes to this larger web of connection.
You're getting it. It's all interconnected.
This is all so fascinating, but I'm also feeling a sense of responsibility. Like if I'm constantly radiating energy out into this field, I want to make sure it's the kind of energy that's beneficial, not harmful.
That's a powerful realization and a great place to start by becoming more aware of our own energy. We can make more conscious choices about how we move through the world.
Okay, we've covered so much ground already. We've talked about individual energy, the Earth's field collective consciousness, and a whole lot more. Before we jump into the practical applications of all this, let's take a moment to process. We'll be back in a moment to explore some specific techniques for managing our energy and making a positive impact on the collective field. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we're talking about all of the ways we can manage our energy, especially in our digital lives. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed by all of it, but I'm starting to see how even just small shifts can make a really big difference.
That's the key takeaway here, right? We're not powerless in this energetic web. We have more agency than we realize.
I'm curious about something you mentioned earlier about setting boundaries with social media. It's something I know I need to do more of, but honestly, it feels really hard to disconnect sometimes.
It's definitely a challenge. Our brains are wired to crave novelty and connection, and social media really taps into that in a big way. But like with anything else, moderation is key.
Easier to say, harder to do. What are some practical strategies that you found helpful?
One thing that made a huge difference for me was being really intentional about curating my feed. I unfollowed accounts that consistently left me feeling stressed or anxious or just plain drained.
So it's not just about limiting time, but also being selective about the kind of energy you're letting into your space.
Exactly. Fill your feed with accounts that inspire you, make you laugh, or teach you something new. Think of it like designing a beautiful garden for your mind, where you're only planting seeds of positivity.
That's such a great analogy. But even with a curated feed, I think a lot of us struggle with that feeling of needing to be constantly connected.
Absolutely. And that's where setting those limits comes in. Maybe designate specific times for checking social media, or even try taking a full day off each week.
A digital detox. I've heard about those, but never actually tried one. What do you even do with all that extra time?
Anything that recharges your batteries, spend time in nature, read a book, have an actual face-to-face conversation with a friend. It's amazing how much more energized and focused I feel when I prioritize those offline activities.
It's like giving your nervous system a break from all of the constant stimulation. But if we're all energetically connected, it can't just be about these individual practices, right? What about the power of community?
That's a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
When people come together with a shared intention, something really remarkable happens.
Think about the energy at a concert or a sporting event or even a protest. It's like palpable. You can feel it. It's like the individual energies all merge into something so much greater.
Exactly, and it doesn't require those massive crowds. Even small groups like meditation circles or community service projects can create a powerful ripple effect in the collective field.
So, finding your tribe, those people who vibrate at a similar frequency, can boost your own energy and contribute to this more harmonious collective vibe.
It's true, but I think it actually goes even beyond just finding people who are like, you know, seeking out diverse perspectives, engaging in respectful dialogue with people who hold different viewpoints. That's what strengthens the collective field as a whole.
I love that it's about recognizing that we're all a part of this intricate tapestry, and every thread, every color adds to the richness and beauty of the whole.
Beautifully said. It's about embracing our interconnectedness, even when we don't always agree. That's where true growth and understanding happen.
Okay, so we've got gratitude meditation, mindful digital engagement, and connecting with our tribe, all these powerful tools for managing our energy and contributing to a more harmonious collective field. But what about those times when we're feeling really stuck or depleted or negative? What are some quick ways that we can shift out of a low energy rut?
Movement is incredibly powerful.
Uh,
When you're feeling sluggish or down, get your body moving, go for a walk, dance to your favorite music, do some yoga, whatever feels good.
it's like shaking things up literally gets the energy flowing again.
Exactly. Physical activity not only releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects, but it also helps to clear out stagnant energy and allows fresh energy to flow in.
And it doesn't have to be intense exercise. Even just a few minutes of stretching or a brisk walk can make a difference.
Absolutely. Listen to your body and do what feels right. And speaking of things that feel good, don't underestimate the power of nature.
Oh, I'm a huge believer in nature's healing power. A walk in the woods or even just sitting under a tree can do wonders for my mood and my energy.
It's true. Nature has a way of recalibrating our energy,
Hmm.
reminding us of our connection to something larger than ourselves.
It's like hitting the reset button on our entire system.
Exactly. So whether it's movement or nature or any of the other practices that we've discussed today, the key is to find what works for you and make it a regular part of your life.
Well, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. We've gone from personal energy fields to planetary vibes to collective consciousness and explored a whole toolbox of techniques for cultivating coherence and making a positive impact on the world around us.
It's been quite a journey, and I hope our listeners are feeling inspired and empowered to take all of this knowledge and put it into practice.
Before we wrap up, is there one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
Remember this, you are not alone. We are all interconnected through this invisible web of energy and our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. They all have a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
Beautifully said, and that means we each have the power to choose the kind of energy we want to contribute to this collective field.
Let's choose love over fear, gratitude over negativity, and connection over isolation. Let's be the change we want to see in the world, one ripple of positive energy at a time.
On that note, we'd like to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the collective field. We'll be back next time with more fascinating insights and practical tools for living a more conscious and connected life. Until then, stay tuned, stay connected, and keep shining your light. I've always thought of myself as being pretty intuitive, but the other day, something happened that just really made me question, how much we're actually picking up from other people around us.
Oh, yeah.
So I was at this coffee shop, just totally spaced out, and then all of a sudden this wave of sadness just kind of washed over me.
Mhm.
And I looked up and there's this woman ahead of me just practically radiating sorrow.
Wow.
And it was so strong. And the thing is, I didn't even know her.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what we're diving into today, this idea of the collective field, this concept that we're all kind of swimming in this ocean of shared energy,
Yeah.
and we're constantly influencing and being influenced by each other on a level that we might not even realize.
So you're saying it's more than just empathy or just picking up on someone's body language, that
Yeah.
there's an actual energetic connection happening.
Exactly. It's not some mystical woo-woo stuff either. There's actual science to back this up.
Yeah.
So our brains and our hearts, they generate electrical impulses, right? And those impulses create electromagnetic fields that extend beyond our bodies.
Okay, so stay with me here. Invisible force fields around each of us.
You got it. And the research from the HeartMath Institute suggests that the heart's electromagnetic field is way stronger than the brain's. We're talking 60 times stronger.
Hold on. My heart has more energetic power than my brain.
Yeah,
That changes things.
it's pretty wild, right? But it makes sense if you think about it. Our emotions are often felt most strongly in our hearts, not our heads. And the HeartMath Institute has found that this heart field actually carries emotional information.
So you're